Hi, all. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. If you are new, welcome. My name is Amira, and today, guys, we are going to be talking all about the makeup I didn't buy in 2024. Let's get into it. Okay, guys. So, today's makeup, I kind of have to say it's kind of banging. I'm very happy with it. I used the Fantasy Cosmetica and Makeup Just for Fun Enchanted Autumn palette for this look. They are having a Black Friday sale. I believe by this point I would have posted it on my Instagram, but I will leave the link to it down below. You can use my code, and I'll put it on the screen to save because the codes do stack for the Black Friday sale. But yeah, this is actually also one of the palettes that is on sale, and I've I've been using this on and off. Like I don't wear really heavy eye makeup much to work anymore, but every now and then I do, and this is one of the palettes that I've been reaching for a ton this fall season. So I'm actually really happy with how my eye makeup turned out. But anywho, all the makeup on my face is down in the description box below. So let's get into talking about all the makeup I didn't buy in 2024. I guess you could say this is like a reverse anti-haul. I don't know how you would describe this, but this is just me telling you all of the releases that I kind of allowed to sort of like hang there. And there were definitely things that I was interested in, but I wanted to just kind of go over why I decided ultimately not to purchase them. So first off, let's start off with some eyeshadow palettes, because eyeshadow palettes tend to be the thing that gets me, and I know it gets other people as well. So let me start off with some palettes, and I want to start off with the two Makeup by Mario palettes that were released this year. I think it was two, or was it three? It might have been three, but I'm going to talk about the two that really caught my eye this year. So in March of this year, Mario released his, what is it? Is this the, I forget what this is called, but it was the Cool Tone Neutrals palette. I believe it's called the Neutrals. But when I first saw this palette, I was really intrigued by it. I haven't tried anything from Makeup by Mario since that brand has launched. And it's not because out of a lack of wanting to try anything. It's just that, or not wanting to try anything. It's more that things will come out and I'll be interested for a moment, and then I'll kind of like talk myself out of it, or I'll just sort of lose interest. And so with that palette, I believe, like I said, I believe it launched in March of this year. I was very intrigued, and then I just kind of forgot about it. And this past, I want to say when did he release this new palette? Maybe about a month ago, or within the last month, he came out with his newer palette. And the Ethereal Moonlight palette, this one, I was so close, guys. I had it in my cart for the Sephora sale. I was ready to purchase. And then I thought about it and I was like, well, what's really attracting me to this palette? And I believe it was the blue. The blue was really, catching my eye. And I do think it's a really lovely blue. It's like a sophisticated muted navy blue, and I found the idea of that was very appealing to me. The idea of having a blue that's not like this bright blue, but it's still a blue, but it's a blue that's wearable, that you can wear during the day and you can make really dramatic at night. I was very, very sort of intrigued by that idea. But then I sort of took a step back and I was like, well, how often do you actually wear blue eyeshadow? Even when I was wearing super dramatic eye makeup pretty much every day, blue was not a color that I reached for a ton. And then if I took the blue out of the equation, what I was left with was a really beautiful neutral palette with not a whole lot else going on. And now I've seen reviews of the palette. I know a lot of people love it. I hear the formula is lovely. I hear the shimmers and metallics are beautiful. But for me, I didn't see the point in spending that kind of money on a palette that essentially can do for me what I have tons of other palettes doing for me in that category of really pretty elevated neutrals. I have, you know, Natasha Denona's, and I have Pat McGrath's, and I have even some really beautiful indie palettes that have beautiful neutral tones that I reach for on a regular basis that do for me what I think that palette would do as well. So I didn't see the point in bringing another palette into my life that's doing what I have things doing already. And also, even though I love the blue, I had to be realistic and be like, okay, well, how often will you actually reach for that? You're not reaching for that blue all that often. So those are two Makeup by Mario palettes that I just kind of took a step back from. I was like, you know, and you know, who knows? I didn't actually swatch the Makeup by Mario palette in person. Like, I went into Sephora the day of the sale and I didn't swatch that. I actually was looking to smell perfumes, and it was so busy that I just sort of went straight to what I wanted, did that, and got the heck out. So I didn't wind up swatching that palette. Who knows? I might see it in person and I might completely change my mind, but I didn't purchase it, and I'm not feeling this like sense of FOMO about it at all. Next up, let's talk about Natasha Denona. So Natasha has been busy this year. Girlfriend's been busy, and she's released a lot of palettes this year, and I feel like most of them for me, I've been sort of like, okay, you know. So the first one that I decided to skip, and that is, I'm going to kind of go in current to like earlier releases. So let's first talk about Roxa. So when she revealed Roxa, first of all, the outer packaging looked beautiful, but I just knew when I saw the outer packaging, as pretty as it was, that it probably was going to be a pass for me. I don't wear purples like that. You know, I don't own the Lila palette. I own a lot of Natasha Denona palettes, but I do not own the Lila palette because, again, it's not a color story that speaks to me. It's not a color story that I know I would get a lot of wear out of. So when she revealed Roxa, I was kind of like, yeah, it's a purple palette, and that's just not what I need in my life. Like and I own purple palettes. I have palettes that have purple tones in them. So again, it's not a color that I feel like I need to bring more of into my life, considering that I don't reach for it that often to begin with. And I also just feel like this palette, as pretty as it is, I felt like it needed something else. I don't know what. It just, for me, and I know that the people who have reviewed this palette, and you know, content creators that I'm friendly with, have reviewed this palette and have loved it. And I say, if you are a purple girly, I don't think this is a bad purchase for you, because it's Natasha Denona's quality, which is always fantastic. And it does have some really beautiful textures. But for me, when I look at it personally, I feel like something's missing, and I don't know what. And it could just be that I'm not a purple girly when it comes to eyeshadow, but something's missing for me with that palette. The next palette that I skipped, and this is going to be a giant caveat, okay? So when I Need a Warm came out, I, like everyone else, was making fun of the name. I'm like, I need a worm? What the heck is that? I need a worm? I need a worm? I need a worm? I need a worm? It was just so like, we needed a better name, Natasha. This was not the name that we needed. We needed something more. And even with this palette, I was like, why do we need this palette? Do we need this palette? I don't think we need this palette. We don't really need this palette. But now, as I think about it, this palette, Natasha's having a Black Friday sale, and I'm filming this the Monday before Thanksgiving. She's having a sale that started, I want to say, Friday of last week. And I'll post details in the community tab and some stuff down in the description box if you're interested in the sale. It's actually a really good sale. I was actually surprised at how good the sale is, because she usually only does like 1 or 2 days, but this sale is like a week long, and it's pretty good. And I was looking at it, the palette, and I was like, you know, I was really curious about it, and I was curious about it when it came out, but I just was like, I don't know. And so I skipped it. But now I'm like, I think I'm going to purchase it. So this is one that like I didn't buy, but I'm circling back and I'm thinking I'm probably going to purchase. Yeah. So that is probably the one thing on this list where I was like, I don't think I need it. And then I changed my mind. So yeah, I think I'm going to probably pick this up this week. But at the time, I was just sort of like, you know, we had just gotten the Golden palette, which was sort of like the newer version of the gold palette, which I think is pretty. And that is a palette I've reached for. When I was talking about beautiful neutral palettes and beautiful like formulations that I own, that is one of the palettes I'm talking about. The golden palette is not a like a light your world up type of palette in my opinion, but it is a palette that is very user friendly and very usable. I reach for it and I can make a beautiful look. Beautiful, two shadows, 3 shadows, and I'm done. It's a really easy palette to work with, and you get sort of some beautiful maximum, you know, minimal effort, maximum impact looks. So I do think that that one is sort of like it's kind of like a dark horse palette for me, and that I when I reviewed it, I liked it, but I wasn't like blown away by it. But now it's sort of become one of my go-tos when I'm wearing eyeshadow. So I kind of have a feeling that I Need a Warm is going to be like that as well, but just on a warmer spectrum. But we'll see. Next up, and this is where I kind of get into, I want to say, the sort of like indie palette situation, because I love indie palettes and I review indie palettes, I wear indie palettes, I purchase indie palettes. But what I've found this year, and I'm tempted to make a video about this if you guys want a video about this, because this is kind of how I've been feeling recently when it comes to a lot of indie releases, is that I feel like, one, there's too many releases. There just are. I get it. I do. And again, I want to get into this more later on. I'm probably going to do a video about this topic, but I'm just going to skim the surface of it here to explain my thought process with a lot of the indie releases that have come out this year, because there's been a lot, is that there's too many releases. And what I've noticed, and I'm sure you all have noticed, especially if, you know, if you purchase indie makeup, is that the price points have gotten consistently higher. Now I will say that with a lot of these brands, the price has gone up, but the quality is also, you know, met that price point. It's not that, you know, the price point is you're getting terrible quality at a super high price point. It's not that, but what I'm finding is someone who, you know, has purchased Pat McGrath, has purchased Natasha Denona, the big, you know, $129 palettes. My brain is having a hard time reconciling spending that kind of money on an indie palette sometimes. Like, I'm just sort of like, what is it that and a lot of the times it is, you're getting these amazing formulations that are really expensive to formulate, and so the price point has to sort of make it worth the while of the, you know, the brand owner, which I completely understand. They're not a large brand that can sort of like get those formulations at a, you know, a cheaper discounted price or wholesale price. But what I will say is, because there has been so many releases of indie palettes, specifically indie palettes, at higher price points, it's made it very hard for me personally to purchase things, in the sense of everything's beautiful, everything's expensive. I really like all of them, but I'm probably just not going to buy any of them. That's kind of what's been happening for me personally. You know, there have been a lot of releases from Inslee Rain that I've been really loving. They just came out with their new palette that is stunning, but it's a $75 palette. Okay, it's beautiful. Like, I'm going to, you know, I'll put pictures up. It's beautiful. Will I eventually purchase this? Perhaps, you know, but they've come out with some really beautiful palettes this year, and I've purchased none of them because I'm just kind of like, okay, that's really beautiful. But also, this brand just came out with something, wow, that's really beautiful, but also really expensive. So I've skipped a lot of indie makeup releases this year, guys, and not out of a lack of like interest, but just more out of this feeling of almost being overwhelmed by choice, like by options. So I just don't pick anything. Like, you know, I was like, oh, maybe I'll pick this one up. Maybe I'll pick that one up. Maybe I'll pick this one up. I don't know. I like them all. They're all really high price points. So either way. And then I'm just sort of like, I'm not going to buy anything. You know, I singled out Inslee Rain because I've been looking at their newer palette and I'm really interested in it. But I'm really speaking on as a whole of like indie makeup. And I've been really blessed in that I've gotten some PR from indie brands this year that has been amazing, like the palette on my eyes. And so I've been able to try a lot of these amazing products, but you know, I'm not like a content creator that gets all of the indie releases. And for me, if I want something, generally I have to purchase it myself, which I'm fine with, but that also means that I have to be really selective in where I'm spending my money. And what's happened for me is that because there's been such a constant, you know, sort of conveyor belt of releases, it's kind of put me off of buying anything. So yeah, that's sort of my little, my issue with, why I haven't purchased a lot of indie makeup this year, even though there have been things on my wish list I wanted. And then you have, you know, your Patrick Ta's of the world. I feel like, I mean, I've talked about this with you guys, but I'm not a huge fan of Patrick Ta's makeup. I've tried a handful of things. I've not loved any of it. I've decluttered all of it. I'm not a huge fan of his eyeshadow formula. I just, you know. So when he announced those $42 duos, I was just kind of like, no. And again, people have reviewed them, and a lot of people said they're really nice. They're nice, but for me, I'm like, I have some single shadows from brands that make beautiful formulations that I genuinely love, and I have those in mainstream brand formulations and indie brand formulations. You know, for me personally, I would rather reach for those than the Patrick Ta, and the colors are beautiful, but I was like, I'm good, fam. I'm good. I don't need that in my life. So that was an easy skip for me. That was an easy, like, meh, nah. Same goes for the foundation release. You guys know how much I love foundations, and I'm really kind of itching to try a new foundation. I might wind up picking something up. I really want to delve into the world of stick foundations. So if you guys have any recommendations for stick foundations, let me know in the comments. But I just kind of knew when I saw that foundation, I was like, no. And again, with the price point, no. I think Patrick Ta's price point is a bit, it's a bit ridiculous. I'm not gonna lie. And I just, every time he comes out with something, I'm just like, sir, really? Really? So yeah, so that was an easy skip for me, was the Patrick Ta foundation and the Patrick Ta eye duos. I was just kind of like, nah, I don't want those. So let's talk Melt Cosmetics, shall we? I used to be a huge Melt Cosmetics fangirl. Like, I loved their products. I still love a lot of what I own from them. I've decluttered quite a bit because it's gotten old, but like, some of their palettes are some of my, like the Gemini palette was like my all-time favorite color story for a very long time. And it's still a color story that lives in my heart, because it was the first Gemini, the first Melt palette I ever purchased. I'm a Gemini. I bought it for my birthday. It was like this insane, it was like the perfect color story. It was like really my perfect color story, truly. And yeah, so I have a lot of like nostalgic feelings about Melt, but I just haven't been checking for Melt the way that I used to. And I feel like a lot of people probably feel that way. But I will say, their Halloween release this year, the Monsters, the Universal Monsters release, that creature from the Black Lagoon palette, that little quad, I don't know what it was about that quad, but it was calling to me. I kept seeing pictures of it, and I was just like, but I want it. I don't know why, but I want it. But I kept saying, okay, so you want it, you're attracted to it, but what are you going to do with it when you get it? Are you going to use it? Are you going to wear it? Like, what's going to happen with this quad once it's been acquired and it's come into your life and your household? And that's where I kind of had to be really sort of like honest with myself and say that I loved the color story. But again, it's a color story that I already have multiple times over, even from Melt palettes. And I'm just like, you really just like, I think for me, there's something about a quad. I don't know what it is. I'm really attracted to like quads and like really well done, succinct, curated color stories. And I just felt that that was so well done. It was just so straightforward, but like, and on the nose, but in the best way possible. It was, you got this, this black, you got this like acidy green, you got this like nudie tone and a white. And I just felt like, and I'll put the pictures of course up on the screen, and I think, or it's not really like a white, it's kind of like a cream color. You just got this really great straightforward color story that you could do a really cool look with. But honestly, the looks would probably of course all look the same eventually, because you're dealing with a very sort of limited color story. They would be colorful and they would be fun, but they would be pretty, you know, samey. So I talked myself out of that one, but I was on the verge, guys. I was like, is this going to be the first melt thing I purchased in like years? But I did not partake, and I'm very proud of myself for that, because I think I would have gotten that in the mail. I would have opened it up and I would have been like, why did I buy this? If you've been watching my channel for a while, you will know that I was a Pat McGrath stan, in the sense of I own all the motherships. To this day I own a ton of Pat McGrath. Like, I just do. And I did a video where I ranked every product in her line, because I owned every product in her line basically, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 items. I made a video about that, and I'll try to remember to link it, but yeah, I owned so much Pat McGrath, and I've slowly like decluttered certain things that have gotten old and that I don't use. But what I've found this year is that I haven't been checking for Pat like pretty much at all. And when they released their holiday collection, there was one little quad that I was kind of interested in. And there's also the Mega Pencil. And I actually did buy my first Pat McGrath product in a really long time during the Sephora sale. But there was those cute little like holiday, like not quads, but duos that she came out with, which I thought were really cute. And I had my eye on the one that was this sort of like sparkly black and a gold. And I was like, oh, that's so cute. You know, I wasn't interested in the big palette. I was just like, whatever, which is rare for me, because I usually buy her holiday palettes, you know, at least for review. But I was just sort of like, meh. And I was like, maybe I'll check out that duo. And then I completely forgot about it, guys. I completely forgot about it, to the point where I was like, did that come out? And then I like went on her website and it was there. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm good. And I will say that's probably the first time in a really long time where I haven't purchased anything from her holiday collection. The pencils, I believe, came out earlier in the year, and I had completely forgotten about those as well. I had completely forgotten about them, and I saw them and I was like, those are really cute. And so I bought one because I had my eye on a couple of colors. The color that I truly wanted was out of stock, but I'm thinking of, I'm doing another lipstick review video. So I picked up my second choice for review for you guys. But I just haven't been checking for Pat, and which kind of makes me sad. Like I want Pat to go back to the brand that they used to be, but I don't think that's going to happen. And the reason why I don't think that's going to happen is that that's not what sells. I mean, that's just the reality of it. You know, give me a mothership one, give me a challenging color story, give me amazing, formulations. And her formulas are still fantastic. Like, I'm not knocking the quality of product, but I just feel like there is this shift to be more mainstream and more palatable for mainstream buyers, which I completely get. But what it's done is sort of, in essence, alienate the people who were the ones who were purchasing the products in the beginning, who really loved a really interesting, fun, artistic color story. Sorry guys, my camera shut off, but I just haven't been checking for Pat, and I'm hoping that maybe there'll be a surprise. I'm always hopeful. I'm always optimistic. I'm always hopeful when I see like she's about to reveal something, and I'm always like, maybe, and then I always go, and I'm hoping that one day I'll go, and then it'll actually be something that I'm excited about. But it hasn't happened this year, guys. It just hasn't happened. Even that duo I was like only marginally like interested in. I was like, oh, that's kind of cute. And then I promptly forgot about it. So yeah. Next up is another brand that I really like, and I just did a video swatching all of my lipsticks from this brand, and I am talking about Lisa Eldridge. And I want to talk about two releases, technically three. One of them was two items, but they were released together. So three releases that I chose to skip. The first one is the matte liquid shadows that she released, and I think she released these not that long ago. Yes, so she released her matte liquid shadows in September of this year, and I literally went to the website and I put like 2 in my cart, and then I just was like, but why though? And I love matte liquid eyeshadows. I own matte liquid eyeshadows, which is why I was asking myself, am I purchasing these for review? Okay, great. But once I've reviewed them, how much use am I going to get out of them, considering that I have ones already that I'm using, and that some of them haven't been touched and some of them have, and you know, and it's sort of like, for me, it was just like I would be buying more of the same, and I don't necessarily, at that higher price point, think that that's the smartest move for me, considering that I have this. And let me just say this, the tones that she released were pretty, but they were tones that weren't unique enough to carve out their own space within my makeup collection, because the tones are very much tones that I love, which means I already have them. Like, I've already acquired them, I use them, I love them, I have them. So for me, this would have just been a very expensive, like, redundant product. Ultimately, I would have done a video about them, and you know, I would have gone, oh, they're nice, and then I would have sat them to the side, and I probably wouldn't have touched them again until I was like, oh yeah, I did purchase those Lisa Eldridge matte liquid shadows, let me use those. So for me, I just kind of just was like, you know, for this price point, I can't do it, Lisa. I can't. And the same goes for, well, she released her Fawn eyeshadow palette, and I just was like, the color story for me was just meh. And I understood the point of view of the color story. I understood, especially in relation to the lipstick, like I got it. Like, it wasn't that I didn't understand why it was the colors that the colors that were chosen made sense, but it just they weren't colors that speak to me. And I also feel like with Lisa's formulation, eyeshadow formulation, it's a formulation that I have a love-hate relationship with, in the sense that I want to love it more than I do. Like, I don't hate it, but I want to love it more than I do. And I own 2 of her eyeshadow palettes. I own Vega, and then I own another one, and one of them I just absolutely love, and the other one I hardly ever reach for. And for that price point, it's kind of a crapshoot for me. But that one specifically, because of that color story, was an easy pass for me. Another easy pass for me were the lipsticks that she released recently with her refillable lipstick cases, which I think it was such a really smart release. It was a really well done. The packaging is beautiful. You can get your name, you know, your initials monogrammed on it. I think it's beautiful. And had there been tones in that release that spoke to me, I probably would have picked up 1 or 2 of those. I went to the website, I looked at the colors, and I just was like, you know, there was nothing that was speaking to me. And some of the tones look very similar to tones that she's released before that I already own. And I've seen some videos where people compare, and there are differences, but it's not enough of a difference for me to justify purchasing the lipsticks. They weren't colors that I felt spoke to me. I felt like they were very, I hate to say it, but I felt like they were kind of safe choices. You know, her original lipstick line is so, beautiful to me, and she has this incredible knack for tones and color and undertones, and I just felt like those were so on the nose that they were boring. You know what I mean? They're like, it was so And I get why. I think when you're choosing something to be a refillable, reusable, a lipstick that you're meant to use up and then and then refill again, you're probably going to choose colors that are palatable for a large audience, and colors that people will continually wear. I completely get that. But just for me personally, they weren't shades that lit up my life, in any way. So I was just sort of like, I'm good. All right. And finally, guys, I'm going to mention a brand, kind of like I did with Pat, but I'm just going to talk about this brand as a whole because I haven't purchased anything from this brand. And I want to say, well, I take that back. I purchased a lip pencil from Ulta, from their brand, to replace an old one earlier this year. But that's the first thing I purchased from the brand in literally years. And that brand is ColourPop. Guys, I'm just not checking for ColourPop anymore. I used to be, oh my God, I used to be such a ColourPop girly. I loved ColourPop. Like, I would purchase ColourPop, if they came out with something new. I didn't purchase every release, but I owned a lot of ColourPop. I've since decluttered a lot, and I still own some, but they're palettes that I don't reach for as much, and I don't know if they're going to survive another declutter. But I just have not purchased a single thing from them in years besides that lip pencil, which I actually technically purchased from Ulta. Nothing interests me. That sounds, I feel like a jerk saying that. Nothing interests me, but truly, I used to be, ColourPop would come out with a color story and I'd be like, bet I'm purchasing that. Cute color story, bet I'm purchasing that. And now I'm just sort of like, I don't even keep up with them. I don't, unless someone I know whose content I watch is talking about their products, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you what they've got going on. I just don't really care. That sounds so mean, but it's just true. I don't have any FOMO with them. I think a lot of people were under the ColourPop spell, and I was one of the people under the ColourPop spell, and then I fell out of the spell, and now I'm just sort of like, I'm good. I've been deprogrammed. I'm happy. I'm living an independent life. I don't want to go back. For me, if I'm gonna buy from an affordable brand, I'd probably purchase from e.l.f. If you've been on my channel, you would know that I am not the biggest Fenty fan. I don't really, most of the stuff I've tried has been, with the exception of the cream blushes, which I did really like. I haven't been wowed by anything. I just haven't, guys. I'm sorry. And I know that's but it's just true for me. And they've released some things that I think are really intriguing. But again, I'm just not, I just didn't buy anything. And for me, I'm really at a point in my makeup journey of not bringing things in. If I've tried enough items from a brand that didn't hold up for me, I don't see the point in investing more of my money into that brand, trying other products. I can just easily just go, I'm just gonna buy some from somewhere else, from some other brand that I know I love their formulations and their products. So yeah, I skipped all of it. Another product that I skipped, and this is another product that might have a caveat, is the Lightwork 6 palette from Danessa Myricks. Now, I only own one Lightwork palette, and it's one of the mini one that she came out with. I have had FOMO about the other ones. There have been a couple that I've just been like, maybe I should have gotten that. Oh, and Lightwork 6, I really think is a quite innovative palette. It's the one that she released that you can break apart and you can sort of travel with one of them and you can put them together. I just think it's a really innovative, smart way of doing a palette like that, because one, the price point is incredibly high. I think it's $125. And there has to be more than just, for me, it has to be, I think, now in 2024, going into 2025, we've moved past this point with makeup purchases of something being luxury and we're just buying it because it's luxury and it's pretty. It has to have some functionality to fit the price point. And I think the fact that she's made it a really functional palette and a palette that you can customize and a palette that you can move around, I think that's really, really smart. And I was interested, but I kind of, with her lightwork palettes, I always have to ask myself, am I going to use this? And a lot of the times the answer is maybe. Maybe. But that's a large price, a high price point to have a maybe about, you know? And so I kept looking at that palette and I'm just like, it's calling to me, but and so I just, even during the Sephora sale, I was like, no. But then she's having her Black Friday sale and Lightwork 6, I believe, will be on sale as well. And I'm like, And the discount will be higher than the Sephora sale discount, which is why I always tell people to wait for the brand sales, because they almost always are a higher price point if there's something that you really, really, truly want and you're not a Rouge member. But yeah, so that is the caveat. I said no to that palette, but I may be saying yes to that palette. I haven't decided yet. I need to sort of like sit down, gather my thoughts, and really ask myself if this is the moment, you know, that I'm finally going to buy like one of her larger lightwork palettes. All right, guys, so that is not like everything that I mean, there's a lot of makeup that comes out, even still. Even though the makeup industry has slowed down quite a bit as far as releases, it's still pretty crazy out there. And for me personally, I've been kind of bored with a lot that has been released this year. I don't know about how you guys are feeling about that, but I've been pretty bored. And at least when it comes to mainstream makeup, I still think that indie brands they're killing it as far as their color stories. I do think they're oversaturating their own market a little bit, but we'll get into that. But I do, you know, at a different video, but I do feel like this year I've just been kind of not necessarily completely burnt out on makeup, because I'm still purchasing things that I love, that I'm excited to try. It's just that I've just been continually underwhelmed to the point of not wanting to open my wallet. You guys let me know how you've been feeling. Are you feeling like you're just kind of like, yeah, I didn't want to buy any of that? I have not purchased as much this year. At least I feel like I haven't. Of course, I'll look at my numbers and my numbers will probably tell me something completely different, but I personally don't feel like I've purchased as much makeup as I have even in 2023. I just don't feel like I've had a lot of things worth opening my wallet for, to be quite honest. But I am doing a video about all of the makeup that I loved this year, because there are some things that came out this year that I absolutely adored. And I do want to talk about them and give them their flowers. So that video is coming up, you guys. But this one I just wanted to talk about. I just wanted to do kind of like a little bit of an anti-haul. And this is probably why I have stopped. Well, there's a couple of reasons why I stopped doing new makeup releases. One, I just haven't had the time. Those videos take a lot of time to not only film, but to edit. And this video is going to take a lot of time to edit and film. But a lot of the times I'd go, oh yeah, I need to do new makeup releases. And then I'd kind of like look at what was coming out and I'd just be like, I don't care. I don't care about any of these things. So then I would just be like unmotivated to film it, because I didn't want it to just be me going, no. I wanted to be able to have like interesting conversations about it. And I feel like I'm doing that here, but this year has been sort of like a meh year for me in terms of makeup releases. Let me know in the comments down below, guys, if you feel the same. And if you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to hit the like button, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye now.